The laboratory hummed with the sound of cooling systems working overtime. Deep beneath the Swiss Alps, in a facility that had cost 17 nations their combined science budgets for 5 years, Dr. Sarah Chen stared at readings that made no sense whatsoever. "That can't be right," she muttered, adjusting her glasses for the 4th time in as many minutes. The holographic display in front of her showed numbers that violated at least 3 laws of physics she had spent her entire career studying. Dr. Yuki Tanaka looked up from his own station across the room. His face was pale and his hands shook slightly as he gripped his coffee mug. "Sarah, I'm seeing the same thing. The probe it's not there anymore." "Obviously it's not there," Sarah snapped, her stress making her irritable. "We sent it through the wormhole. That was the whole point of this test." "No, you don't understand." Yuki stood up and walked over to her station, bringing his tablet with him. "It's not anywhere. Look at these readings. The probe didn't travel through space. The space between here and the destination point just stopped existing for exactly 0.0037 seconds. Sarah felt her stomach drop. She looked at the data again, this time really looking at it. Yuki was right. The probe hadn't moved from point A to point B. Instead, points A and B had briefly become the same point. The space between them had simply ceased to exist for a fraction of a heartbeat. "Oh God," she whispered. "What did we do?" The test had been simple in theory. Create a stable wormhole, send an unmanned probe through it, and bring it back. They had been trying for 3 years, burning through funding and patience in equal measure. The international community wanted results. They wanted humanity to reach the stars. They wanted faster than light travel, and they wanted it now. Sarah had designed the latest attempt based on a theory that had come to her in a dream, of all things. Instead of trying to punch a hole through space, what if they could convince space itself to compress? To fold in on itself so tightly that 2 distant points touched? The mathematics had been elegant. The engineering had been a nightmare. But they had built it. All 17 kilometers of particle accelerators and quantum field generators, buried under a mountain where nobody would bother them. And it had worked. Sort of. The probe had vanished from their laboratory and appeared exactly where they had aimed it, in orbit around the moon, 384,400 kilometers away. Then it had come back, following the return coordinates they had programmed into it. The whole journey had taken less than a second, but something was wrong with how it had gotten there. "Run the gravitational wave analysis," Sarah ordered, her mind racing. "If we collapsed space like that, there should be a signature." Yuki's fingers flew across his tablet. His eyes went wide. "Sarah, there are gravitational waves. Massive ones. They're propagating outward from both the origin and destination points." "How massive?" "Detectable across at least." "Oh no. Oh no, no, no." Yuki sat down heavily in the nearest chair. "Sarah, these waves are going to be visible for light years. Maybe dozens of light years. Anyone with gravitational sensors, even remotely as sensitive as ours, would be able to see this." Sarah felt the blood drain from her face. "But there's nobody out there to see it. We're alone." "We thought we were alone," Yuki corrected quietly. "We hoped we were alone. But Sarah, if there is anyone out there, we just lit up like a flare." Before Sarah could respond, the laboratory door burst open. Admiral Marcus Webb strode in, his military uniform somehow still perfectly pressed despite the early hour. He was flanked by 2 security officers, and his expression was one of barely contained excitement. "Tell me you did it," he demanded without preamble. "Tell me the test was successful." Sarah exchanged a glance with Yuki. "The probe reached its destination and returned," she said carefully. "But Admiral, there are complications." "Complications?" Webb's eyes narrowed. "The probe is intact, isn't it? Can we scale this up?" "That's not the issue," Sarah began, but Webb cut her off. "Then there is no issue. Dr. Chen, do you understand what you've accomplished here? Faster than light travel. Humanity's ticket to the stars. This changes everything." "Admiral, please listen," Yuki interjected. "The method we used, it's not like conventional travel. We didn't move through space. We temporarily eliminated the space between 2 points. The gravitational effects are significant and far-reaching." Webb waved a dismissive hand. "I'll leave the technical details to you scientists. What I need to know is simple. Can we put a human crew on a ship with this technology and send them to another star system?" Sarah wanted to say no. Every instinct she had screamed that they needed more time, more tests, more understanding of what they had just done. But she looked at the data again, at the probe sitting in its recovery bay, completely undamaged and functional. Theoretically, yes, she admitted. The probe experienced no adverse effects. As far as we can tell, the transition was instantaneous and safe for the payload. Then we move forward immediately, Webb declared. I want a manned test within 6 months. We'll start with a trip to Mars, then to one of Jupiter's moons, then to Proxima Centauri. Humanity is going to the stars, doctors, and you two just made it possible. After Webb left, taking his security detail and his enthusiasm with him, Sarah and Yuki sat in silence for a long moment. We should tell him about the gravitational waves, Yuki said quietly. He doesn't care about the gravitational waves, Sarah replied. She felt tired suddenly, exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with the early hour or the stress of the test.
He cares about results.
About being first. But if there's anyone out there, and if they see those waves, then maybe they'll be happy to know they're not alone. Sarah didn't believe her own words, but she said them anyway. Come on. We have 6 months to make this safe enough for a human crew. Let's get to work. The weeks that followed were a blur of activity. The news of their success leaked, as news always did, and suddenly the entire world was watching. The facility that had been a quiet research installation became a circus of media attention, political grandstanding, and military oversight. Sarah barely noticed. She was too busy trying to understand what they had created. Every test they ran, every simulation they performed, told the same story. Their drive worked by creating what she had started calling a reality compression field. For a tiny fraction of a second, it convinced the universe that two distant points were actually the same point. And the universe, having no choice but to comply with its own laws, made it so. The energy requirements were enormous but manageable with their quantum power cores. The mathematical calculations were complex but solvable with their quantum computers. Everything about the drive seemed to work perfectly, except for one thing that kept nagging at Sarah's mind. Every time they used the drive, instruments across the facility detected a brief fluctuation in the fundamental constants of physics. It was tiny, barely measurable, and it only lasted for a few microseconds, but it was there. It's probably just interference, Yuki suggested when she showed him the readings. Some kind of feedback from the reality compression field. Probably, Sarah agreed. But she noted it in her logs anyway, a small voice in the back of her mind whispering that they were missing something important. The manned test date was set for 6 months to the day after their initial success. Captain Maria Rodriguez, a veteran astronaut with 3 Mars missions under her belt, would pilot the ship alone. The destination was Proxima Centauri, 424 light-years away. With conventional drives, the journey would take thousands of years. With their new drive, which Sarah had officially dubbed the Chen Tanaka drive despite her protests, it would take less than a second. The night before the launch, Sarah couldn't sleep. She walked the empty corridors of the facility, past the humming machinery and the quietly blinking control panels. She found herself in the observation room overlooking the drive core, a massive spherical chamber where space itself would be twisted into impossible shapes. Having second thoughts, Sarah jumped. Admiral Webb stepped out of the shadows, 2 cups of coffee in his hands. He offered one to her. Just pre-launch jitters, Sarah lied, accepting the cup. Liar, Webb said, but his tone was gentle. You're worried about those gravitational waves. About what might see them, Sarah sighed. Among other things, yes. For what it's worth, I think you're worrying about nothing. We've been broadcasting radio signals into space for over 200 years. If there was anyone out there who wanted to find us, they would have already. Maybe, Sarah said, or maybe they were just waiting to see if we were stupid enough to invent something like this. Webb chuckled. If they're out there and they're that advanced, maybe they'll be impressed. Maybe they'll want to meet the species clever enough to crack faster than light travel. Or maybe they'll wonder why we cracked it in such a dangerous way, Sarah muttered. Dangerous how? The tests have all been perfect. Sarah wanted to explain about the fluctuating constants, about the gravitational waves that propagated for light years, about the feeling in her gut that they were playing with forces they didn't fully understand. But she was tired, and Webb wouldn't listen anyway, and maybe she was just being paranoid. Never mind, she said. Tomorrow's a big day. I should try to get some sleep. But she didn't sleep. Instead, she sat in her office reviewing the data one more time. Somewhere around 3 in the morning, She noticed something new in the gravitational wave patterns, a regularity almost like a pulse. It took her another hour to isolate it, to pull it out from the background noise. When she finally saw it clearly, her blood went cold. The gravitational waves they had generated weren't just random distortions in spacetime. They were interacting with something that was already out there, invisible and undetectable except through their unique effect on gravity. A network of some kind spread across the galaxy like a web, and their test had made it ring like a struck bell. Sarah reached for her phone to call Yuki, then stopped. What would she even say? That she had found evidence of an alien communication network? Based on what? Some unusual patterns in gravitational wave data that could just as easily be random noise? She looked at the clock. In 5 hours, Captain Rodriguez would climb into her ship. In 6 hours, she would jump to Proxima Centauri and back, proving that humanity could reach the stars. And somewhere out there, Sarah was suddenly certain, someone or something had noticed. They had seen the gravitational waves from the first test. They had felt the network respond, and now they were watching, waiting to see what the humans would do next. Sarah made her decision. She would let the test proceed. But she would monitor everything, every reading, every fluctuation, every anomaly. And if something went wrong, if there was any sign that they had attracted the wrong kind of attention, she would shut the program down herself. Consequences be damned. Outside her window, the sky was beginning to lighten with the approaching dawn. Somewhere up there, beyond the atmosphere and the moon and the vast darkness between the stars, someone might be looking back. Sarah finished her coffee, cold now, and went to prepare for the test that would change everything. Captain Maria Rodriguez checked her harness for the 3rd time, even though she knew it was secure. The cockpit of the Pathfinder was cramped but functional, every surface covered with displays showing the status of systems she didn't fully understand. She was a pilot, not a physicist. Her job was simple: sit still, don't touch anything, and let the drive do its work. Pathfinder, this is Control. How are you feeling? Dr. Chen's voice came through her headset, tense but professional. Like I'm about to become either the most famous person in human history or a very small cloud of particles, Maria replied. So you know, Tuesday. She heard nervous laughter from the control room. Good. If they were still capable of laughing, things couldn't be too serious. Maria had been in enough dangerous situations to know that humor died first when things went really wrong. All systems show green. Dr. Tanaka's voice joined the channel. The drive is charging normally. We'll be ready to jump in 2 minutes. Maria watched the countdown timer on her main display. 2 minutes until she would be the first human to travel to another star system. 4.24 light-years in less than a second. Her childhood self, the girl who had stared up at the stars from her backyard in Arizona, would have lost her mind with excitement. Her adult self, the woman who had seen 3 friends die in a Mars dust storm, was just trying to keep her heart rate under control. 1 minute, Tanaka announced. Maria closed her eyes and thought about her daughter. Sophia was 8 now, probably in school at this exact moment, maybe thinking about her mom in space. Maria had promised her she would come back. She intended to keep that promise. 30 seconds. The ship began to vibrate, not violently, just a low hum that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Maria opened her eyes and saw the space outside her viewport beginning to shimmer, like heat waves rising from summer asphalt. 10 seconds. 9. 8. The shimmer intensified. Maria could see stars outside, but they looked wrong somehow, stretched and distorted. 3, 2, 1, jump. The universe turned inside out. That was the only way Maria could describe it later. For a fraction of a second that somehow felt like forever, she existed in 2 places at once. She could see the control room at the facility, and she could see the red light of Proxima Centauri filling her viewport. She was Maria Rodriguez, and she was also something else. Something spread across light years of space. And then she was in orbit around Proxima Centauri, and everything was normal again. Holy shit, Maria breathed. Control, do you copy? I'm here. I'm at Proxima. Silence answered her, of course. Even with quantum communication systems, there would be a delay while the equipment recalibrated after the jump. She was alone, 4.24 light-years from home, the first human to ever travel this far from Earth. The star was beautiful, smaller than the sun, redder but still a star, still burning with fusion fire 1,000,000 kilometers away. Maria took a moment to simply look at it, to appreciate what she was seeing. Then her instruments began screaming. What the hell? Maria's fingers flew across her controls. She wasn't detecting a malfunction in her ship. She was detecting objects. Lots of objects. Big objects. Moving objects, objects that weren't there a second ago. "Control, we have a problem," Maria said into her radio, knowing they wouldn't hear her for minutes yet. "I'm reading multiple contacts. Repeat, multiple large contacts appearing on sensors. They're not asteroids. They're moving too fast and their signatures are too regular. Control, I think these are ships." Even as she said it, she couldn't quite believe it. Ships. Alien ships. 200 of them, according to her sensors, appearing in orbit around Proxima Centauri, as if they had been waiting for her, as if they had known she was coming. Maria's combat training kicked in. She began evasive maneuvers, preparing to jump back to Earth immediately, but her computer flashed a warning. The drive was still recycling. It needed 5 more minutes before it could jump again. 5 minutes she didn't have if these ships turned out to be hostile. One of the ships was approaching. It was huge, easily 10 times the size of her own vessel and shaped like nothing she had ever seen. Organic curves mixed with geometric precision, as if someone had tried to design a ship that was simultaneously a sculpture and a weapon. A light began flashing on her communication panel. Incoming transmission. Maria hesitated. This was it. This was the moment. First contact with alien life. Every protocol she had been taught said she should wait for authorization from Earth, should let the diplomats and the linguists handle this. But Earth was 4 light years away and these ships were here now. She accepted the transmission. The voice that came through was not human, but it spoke perfect English. "Human vessel Pathfinder. I am Ambassador Kelleth of the Galactic Council. You will power down your reality compression drive and remain stationary. Any attempt to activate the drive again will be interpreted as an act of aggression and will be met with immediate containment. Do you understand?" Maria's mouth went dry. Reality compression drive. They knew what it was called. Or at least they knew what it did. "This is Captain Maria Rodriguez of the Pathfinder, representing Earth and the human species. I understand. But I need to ask, how did you know we would be here?" There was a pause. When Kelleth spoke again, his voice was heavy with something that might have been sadness. "We have been monitoring your world since your first atomic detonation. We had hoped your species would develop differently, that you would learn caution before you learned to break reality itself. We were wrong." "Break reality? What are you talking about? This is just a faster-than-light drive. There is no such thing as just when it comes to the technology you have developed, Captain Rodriguez. You have created something that was banned by the Galactic Council 10,000 years ago, something that nearly destroyed an entire sector of space. You call it a drive. We call it the Reality Ripper." Maria felt like she had been punched in the stomach. "I don't understand. Our scientists, they tested it. It's safe." "Your scientists performed 3 tests, Kelleth said. 3 tiers in the fabric of space-time that were detected across dozens of light years. Each tier weakened the fundamental structure of reality in this region. If you continue to use this technology, you will eventually create a cascade failure. Physics itself will stop working in an expanding sphere around each use. Stars will cease to fuse. Atoms will cease to hold together. Everything will die." "That's impossible," Maria whispered. But even as she said it, she remembered Dr. Chen's concerns about the gravitational waves, about the fluctuating constants. "It is not only possible, it is inevitable. The Gentar civilization learned this truth 10,000 years ago. They used reality compression drives extensively to build their empire. They spread across 1,000 worlds in a century. Then the cascade failures began. It took only 3 years for their entire civilization to collapse. Of their 50 billion citizens, fewer than 10,000 survived. Those survivors became wanderers, refugees seeking shelter in stable space. Captain Rodriguez, I am one of those survivors. I am Zentar, and I am here to ensure that your species does not repeat our mistake." Maria couldn't speak. She stared at her displays, at the ships surrounding her, at the distant red star that suddenly seemed very far from home. When she finally found her voice, it was small. "Are you going to destroy Earth?" "No. But we are going to ensure that you never use this technology again. A fleet is already en route to your homeworld. Your leaders will be brought before the Council. They will be given a choice: surrender all research related to reality compression and submit to monitoring or face quarantine. Your species will be forbidden from leaving your solar system until we are satisfied that you understand the danger of what you have created. We didn't know, Maria said. We didn't know any of this was out here. We thought we were alone. Many species make that assumption, Kelleth replied. Most of them learn otherwise in more pleasant circumstances. Your species chose to announce itself by nearly breaking reality. This is not the first impression you wish to make, I think. Maria laughed, a slightly hysterical sound. No, this is definitely not how we imagined first contact going. Captain Rodriguez, I am sorry. I know this is not the welcome you hoped for. But you must understand, this is an existential threat not just to your species, but to every living being in this entire region of space. The Council takes no joy in this intervention. But we cannot allow your species to continue down this path. I understand, Maria said, and she did. If everything Kelleth said was true, if the drive really was as dangerous as he claimed, then humanity had stumbled into something far beyond their understanding. They had been children playing with matches in a room full of explosives. You may activate your drive one more time to return to Earth, Kelleth said. The Council fleet will follow. They will arrive shortly after you do. Use this time to warn your people. Tell them we come not as conquerors, but as neighbors who must act to protect their homes. Tell them the Galactic Council seeks peace, but we will not compromise on this matter. Maria nodded even though Kelleth couldn't see her. I'll tell them. And Ambassador? Thank you, for not just destroying us without explanation. We are civilized beings, Captain. We solve problems through dialogue and cooperation when possible. It is only when peace fails that we resort to other measures. I hope your species will choose wisdom over pride. The transmission ended. Maria sat alone in her cockpit, surrounded by alien ships staring at the countdown timer. 3 more minutes until the drive was ready. She opened a channel to Earth, knowing her message wouldn't arrive for 4 years at light speed, but needing to say it anyway. Control, this is Pathfinder. The test was successful, but we have a major situation. We are not alone. Repeat, we are not alone. And they are not happy about what we've created. They call our drive a reality ripper. They say it can destroy space itself if we keep using it. A fleet is coming to Earth. They want to negotiate, but they're serious about shutting down the program. She paused, trying to think of what else to say. What else could possibly matter in this moment? They say we nearly broke reality. They say we were playing with something we don't understand. And you know what? I think they're right. I think Dr. Chen was right to be worried. We need to listen to these people. We need to understand what we've done before we do any more damage. The timer hit 0. The drive was ready. Maria took a deep breath and activated the jump sequence. Once more, the universe turned inside out. Once more, she existed in 2 places at once. And when she reformed in Earth orbit, Luna Station's sensors already screaming about the 200 alien ships that had appeared alongside her, Maria Rodriguez knew that humanity would never be the same. Down on Earth in the facility in Switzerland, Dr. Sarah Chen was staring at her displays in horror. The ships were already being detected by every telescope on the planet. Military forces were mobilizing. Governments were panicking. And all of this chaos and fear and confusion was because of the device she had built. Her phone rang. It was Admiral Webb. Dr. Chen, we need you in the command center immediately. We have a situation. I know, Sarah said quietly. I'm watching. They came through with Rodriguez. They followed her jump. How is that even possible? Sarah looked at her data, at the gravitational wave patterns that had been haunting her for months. The answer was suddenly obvious. They've been using reality compression technology for thousands of years, Admiral. They know how to track it. They probably knew the moment we performed our first test. They've been coming here for weeks. They were just waiting to see if we would be stupid enough to do it again. Are we in danger? Sarah watched as the alien ships took up positions around Earth, not threatening but clearly establishing a perimeter, a blockade, a cage. That depends on what we do next. But Admiral, I think we need to listen to what they have to say. Because if they're right about what our drive can do, then we're in much more danger from ourselves than we ever could be from them. She ended the call and pulled up the files on the fluctuating constants. The gravitational waves, all the warning signs she had seen but hadn't fully understood. The evidence had been there all along. They had built something magnificent and terrible, and now they would have to answer for it. Outside, the alien ships waited in silent judgment, while humanity below struggled to comprehend that it was not alone, and that its first gift to the galaxy was not peace or wisdom, but a weapon that could unmake reality itself. First contact had finally happened. It just wasn't anything like they had imagined. The chamber was enormous, designed to accommodate species of wildly different sizes and environmental needs. Sarah stood on a platform that had risen from the floor, placing her at eye level with dozens of beings that looked like they had stepped out of humanity's wildest science fiction dreams. There was Ambassador Kelleth, his forearms folded in a gesture that Sarah's translator implant said meant patient concern. Next to him sat a being made entirely of crystal, light refracting through its body in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Further along the curved table that encircled the chamber floor were creatures that breathed methane, beings that looked like ambulatory plants and things Sarah's mind couldn't quite process, too alien for easy categorization. This was the Galactic Council, and Sarah Chen was on trial. Not officially, of course. Officially, this was a clarification session. But Sarah had seen enough legal proceedings in her life to recognize what was really happening. She was here to answer for the crime of inventing something humanity shouldn't have been able to invent for another 1,000 years. Dr. Tanaka stood beside her, his face pale but determined. Behind them, safely in the observation section, were representatives from Earth's major governments, all of them looking various degrees of terrified and angry. Admiral Webb was there too, his jaw clenched so tight Sarah thought she could hear his teeth grinding from across the room. Dr. Sarah Chen, the crystalline being, spoke, and Sarah's implant translated the complex harmonic patterns into English. I am High Chancellor Vorn, elected leader of the Galactic Council. You stand before us today not as an enemy, but as a being whose actions have created a potential crisis for all civilizations in this region of space. Do you understand why you have been brought here? Sarah swallowed hard. I understand that the technology we developed is more dangerous than we realized. Ambassador Kelleth explained that it can damage the fabric of space-time itself. Damage is too gentle a word, said a new voice, this one belonging to something that looked like a serpent made of smoke. Your technology doesn't damage space-time, Dr. Chen, it breaks it. It shatters it. And unlike a broken tool that can be repaired, broken space-time spreads like cancer. Each use creates a weakness. Each weakness makes the next break easier. Eventually, the entire region destabilizes and reality itself ceases to function. How? Yuki spoke up, his scientist's curiosity overcoming his fear. How does the technology cause this effect? Our models showed— Your models were incomplete, Vorn interrupted, not unkindly. You are a young species. Your understanding of advanced physics is primitive. You see the immediate effect, the successful compression and decompression of space-time. You do not see the accumulated stress, the microfractures in reality that remain after each use. Allow me to show you what you have done. The center of the chamber lit up with a holographic display. Sarah gasped. It showed Earth's solar system, but overlaid with colors and patterns she had never seen before. There were 3 bright scars radiating out from 2 points, Earth and Proxima Centauri. These are the ruptures your 3 tests created, Vorn explained. You cannot see them with your instruments because they exist in dimensions your species has not yet learned to access. But they are real and they are spreading. At current propagation rates, these ruptures will destabilize space-time across a sphere 3 light-years in radius within 50 years. Within a century, 10 light-years. Within 2 centuries, this entire sector. Sarah felt sick. What happens to the worlds inside that sphere? Kelleth answered, his voice heavy with old pain. I can tell you, Dr. Chen, I lived through it. The Gentar used reality compression drives for 70 years. We thought we were building an empire. We thought we were conquering space itself. The hologram changed, showing a vibrant system with multiple inhabited worlds, orbital stations, ships moving between planets in complex patterns. This was the Gentar homeworld, Kelleth continued. 3 billion people lived there, another 47 billion across 900 colony worlds. We were a proud species convinced of our own brilliance. The hologram began to change. The colors shifted, became wrong somehow. Sarah watched in horror as the planets began to distort. The first sign was subtle. Atomic bonds began to weaken in random locations. Materials that should have been stable simply fell apart. We thought it was a new disease, some kind of exotic radiation. We were wrong. The distortions spread. Ships broke apart in space. Stations collapsed. The star itself began to flicker. The cascade took 3 years to consume our entire civilization. Stars stopped fusing. Planets flew apart. The laws of physics simply stopped working. Of 50 billion Gentar, Fewer than 10,000 made it to stable space before their ships stopped functioning. I was one of them. I watched my homeworld dissolve into constituent atoms while my children screamed in my arms. I could do nothing to save them. Nothing to save anyone. The hologram showed the aftermath. Where a vibrant civilization had been, there was now just empty space, not even debris remaining, as if an eraser had been dragged across reality itself. The dead zone remains to this day, Vorn said softly. 10,000 years later, that region of space is still uninhabitable. Matter cannot exist there in any stable form. It is a monument to the danger of technology wielded without wisdom. Sarah was crying. She hadn't even realized it until she felt tears on her cheeks. We didn't know. We had no idea any of this was possible. We were just trying to reach the stars. Many species try to reach the stars, said the serpent being. Most do it safely. You chose the most dangerous path possible. We didn't choose it, Yuki protested. We didn't even know there were other paths. We're isolated here. No one told us the rules. No one warned us. The Galactic Council has protocols, Vorn replied. When a species develops basic spaceflight, we make contact. We guide them, teach them, help them avoid the mistakes we made. But you skipped several stages of development. You went from primitive chemical rockets to reality compression in less than 3 centuries. We did not have time to intervene before you had already built and tested the technology. So this is our fault? Admiral Webb's voice rang out from the observation area. You're blaming us for not knowing rules nobody told us existed? We are not assigning blame, Admiral Webb, Kelleth said wearily. We are stating facts. Your species has created a technology that threatens billions of lives. Our responsibility is to protect those lives. Your ignorance, while genuine, does not change the danger. What do you want from us? Sarah asked, trying to keep her voice steady. You said we have a choice. What are the options? Vorn's crystalline form pulsed with light. The Council has debated this question since we detected your first test. There are 3 primary factions. The first faction advocates for immediate preemptive action. Quarantine your species to your homeworld. Destroy all ships capable of leaving your atmosphere, and maintain monitoring stations to ensure compliance. You would be allowed to develop in isolation until such time as you could be trusted with advanced technology. That's a prison sentence for our entire species, Webb said. It is survival, the smoke serpent replied. The second option is extinction. There are council members who argue that any species reckless enough to develop reality compression should be eliminated before they can cause galactic harm. You should be grateful that faction is in the minority. Sarah felt her blood turn to ice. And the third option? The third option is the one we are offering you now, Vorn said.
Cooperation.
You surrender all research related to reality compression. You submit to council oversight and monitoring. In exchange, we share our own FTL technology with you. Safe methods that have been refined over millions of years. You become junior members of the Galactic Council with the same rights and protections as all member species. But you must never use reality compression again. Every piece of equipment, every shred of data, every scientist involved in the project must be accounted for and supervised. That's not a choice, Webb began, but Sarah cut him off. It's the only choice that makes sense, Admiral. We built something we don't understand. We nearly destroyed who knows how many worlds out of ignorance and arrogance. If the Council is offering us a way to still reach the stars without ending civilization as we know it, we have to take it. We'd be giving up our independence, Webb argued. Our sovereignty. They'd be watching everything we do. They should be watching everything we do, Sarah shot back, her voice rising. Do you understand what we almost did? What we still might do? Those ruptures are spreading. Even if we never use the drive again, the damage is already done. We need their help to fix it, and we need their knowledge to make sure we never make a mistake like this again. Before Webb could respond, Sarah turned back to the Council. High Chancellor, I accept responsibility for the creation of the reality compression drive. If the Council requires someone to answer for this crime, let it be me. But please, give humanity a chance to prove we can learn from our mistakes. Noble words, said a new voice, this one belonging to a being that looked like a mass of tentacles covered in eyes. But words are cheap. The question is whether your species can actually follow through. Dr. Chen, are you prepared to give us everything? Every calculation, every blueprint, every test result? Are you willing to dismantle the drive you spent years creating? Sarah thought about her work, about the elegance of the mathematics, about the thrill of seeing her theories proven correct. She thought about her name in the history books, the Tanaka drive that would carry humanity to the stars. Then she thought about Ambassador Kelleth watching his children die, while reality dissolved around them. Yes, she said quietly. I'll give you everything. I'll help you dismantle it. I'll spend the rest of my life making sure it's never built again if that's what it takes. Yuki nodded beside her. I will too. We created this. We have a responsibility to ensure it never harms anyone. Vorn's form pulsed again, and Sarah's implant suggested the emotion might be approval. Very well, Dr. Chen, Dr. Tanaka, your cooperation is noted. However, there is still the matter of the damage already done. The ruptures are spreading. Left unchecked, they will eventually destabilize this entire region. Can they be repaired? Yuki asked. Not by any method known to the Council, the tentacled being replied. Reality compression breaks space-time. We know of no process that can heal it. The ruptures will continue to spread until they burn themselves out, which could take thousands of years. Sarah felt despair settling over her like a heavy blanket. They had broken something they couldn't fix. They had wounded reality itself and there was no cure. Then she remembered something. A pattern she had seen in the data during the tests. A strange feedback loop that she had dismissed as instrumental error. Wait, she said. What if we could reverse the process? Instead of compressing space, what if we could expand it, stretch it in exactly the opposite way we compressed it? The chamber fell silent. Every being present turned to look at her. Explain, Vorn commanded. The reality compression works by temporarily eliminating the space between 2 points. But that space has to go somewhere, right? Maybe it's not eliminated. Maybe it's just displaced, pushed aside. If we could figure out where it goes and how to push it back, we might be able to reverse the damage. That's impossible, the smoke serpent said. Space cannot be expanded. The laws of physics said reality compression was impossible too, Yuki interrupted, his eyes lighting up with understanding. But we did it anyway. Sarah, are you thinking what I think you're thinking? I'm thinking maybe we broke reality, but we're also the only ones who know exactly how we broke it. Maybe that means we're the only ones who can figure out how to fix it. Kelleth leaned forward, his multiple hands gripping the table. Dr. Chen, what you are suggesting has never been attempted. You would be experimenting with forces that have already proven catastrophically dangerous. I know, Sarah said, but High Chancellor, you said the ruptures will spread for thousands of years. How many civilizations will be affected? How many billions of lives? Vorn was silent for a long moment. 47 inhabited worlds lie within the projected expansion zone. Combined population of 63 billion beings. Then we have to try, Sarah insisted. I broke it. Let me try to fix it, and if you fail? The smoke serpent demanded. If your attempt makes things worse? Sarah met its alien gaze steadily. Then at least we'll know we tried. But I don't think it will make things worse. I think we might actually be able to do this. With the Council's help, with access to your understanding of advanced physics, we might be able to create something new. Not a reality compression drive, but a reality restoration process. The Council members looked at each other, communicating in ways Sarah couldn't perceive. Finally, Vorn spoke again. This is highly irregular. The Council does not normally allow dangerous experimentation, especially not by the species that created the danger in the first place. However, these are extraordinary circumstances. Dr. Chen, Dr. Tanaka, if you are serious about this, you will work under direct Council supervision. Every test will be monitored. Any sign that you are making the situation worse and the project will be terminated immediately. Is this acceptable? Sarah glanced at Yuki. He nodded. It's acceptable, Sarah said. We'll fix this, or we'll die trying. Let us hope it does not come to that, Kelleth said quietly. Because if you fail, Dr. Chen, it will not be just you who dies. It will be everything within 100 light-years of Earth. The weight of that responsibility settled on Sarah's shoulders like a physical force. She had come here thinking she was on trial. Now she realized that the real trial was just beginning. The laboratory on Titan was nothing like the facility in Switzerland. Instead of being buried under a mountain, it floated in orbit around Saturn's largest moon, a joint construction between humanity and the Galactic Council. Through the observation windows, Sarah could see the orange haze of Titan's atmosphere below, and the rings of Saturn stretching across the sky like a cosmic highway. She had been working for 3 months straight, barely sleeping, driven by a combination of guilt and determination. The ruptures were growing slowly but measurably. Every day the dead zone expanded. Every day more space became unstable, and every day Sarah worked to find a solution. The math is elegant. I'll give you that, said Whisper of Equations, the methane-breathing mathematician who had been assigned to work with them. His species, the Krell, looked like octopi made of smoke, and they communicated through complex patterns of bioluminescence. Sarah's translator implant converted these patterns into words, though she suspected something was lost in the translation. But elegant math means nothing if we can't actually build the device, Yuki pointed out. He was hunched over his workstation, studying readings from their latest simulation. We need quantum entanglement generators that won't exist for at least 50 years, even with council help. Sarah rubbed her eyes. She was so tired. Then we need to find a way to do it with the technology we do have. Or, Whisper of Equations pulsed in a pattern her implant translated as cautious. We could ask the council for access to their advanced equipment. We've been asking, Sarah said. They keep saying no. They don't trust us enough yet, it was true. Despite agreeing to let Sarah and Yuki work on a potential solution, the council was still treating them like dangerous children. Every request for advanced technology was denied. Every proposal was scrutinized by a dozen different committees. Sarah understood their caution, really she did, but it was frustrating when the clock was ticking and lives were at stake. The door to the lab hissed open. Ambassador Kelleth entered, his forearms carrying data tablets and what looked like tea. Over the past 3 months, he had become something like a friend, though Sarah knew he was also their primary supervisor and probably their jailer if things went wrong. You look terrible, Kelleth said, setting the tea down in front of Sarah. When did you last sleep? What day is it? That's not a healthy answer, Doctor. Sarah laughed bitterly. Nothing about this situation is healthy, Ambassador. We've got maybe 6 months before the ruptures reach the nearest inhabited system. After that, we're looking at a body count in the billions. Forgive me if I'm not prioritizing sleep. Kelleth settled his bulk into a chair designed for his physiology. I understand your urgency, but exhaustion leads to mistakes, and mistakes are something we cannot afford. Take a break. Tell me about your progress. Yuki pulled up the simulation results on the main display. We think we've figured out the theory. Space that's compressed during a jump isn't destroyed, it's displaced into higher dimensional space. It wants to return to normal, which is why reality compression is inherently unstable. The problem is that it returns slowly, and the process creates stress fractures in nearby spacetime. Like a spring being compressed, Sarah added. Eventually it springs back, but if you compress it too much or too quickly, the spring breaks. So your solution is to help it spring back faster? Kelleth asked. Exactly. We create a device that uses quantum entanglement to guide the displaced space back to where it belongs. Instead of taking thousands of years to heal naturally, the ruptures could be repaired in days or even hours. It's a beautiful theory, Whisper of Equations added. The mathematics are sound, but the engineering requirements are beyond what we can achieve with available resources. Kelleth was quiet for a moment. What specifically do you need? Sarah pulled up a list. Quantum entanglement generators capable of maintaining coherence across light years. Zero-point energy extractors to power the process. Dimensional stabilizers to prevent the repair process from creating new ruptures. And most importantly, ships capable of deploying these devices to each rupture site simultaneously. The repair has to happen all at once, or we risk creating interference patterns that could make everything worse. How many ships? At least 50, maybe 100 to be safe, all equipped with the new technology, all jumping to precise coordinates at exactly the same moment. Kelleth's alien features were hard for Sarah to read, but she thought she detected something like resignation in his posture. You are asking for resources and trust that the Council has not granted to a new species in 10,000 years. I know, Sarah said quietly. I know it's asking a lot, but Ambassador, I need you to understand something. When I invented the reality compression drive, I thought I was advancing humanity. I thought I was being brilliant. I was wrong, and my arrogance has created a disaster that could kill billions. I have to fix this, not because the Council is making me, but because I can't live with myself if I don't at least try. Kelleth stood and walked to the observation window, looking out at the rings of Saturn. Tell me, Dr. Chen, what do you know about the Gentar homeworld? Sarah blinked at the sudden change of subject. You told us. It was destroyed by reality compression cascade failures. That's true. But do you know why we were using reality compression in the first place? Kelleth didn't wait for an answer. We were running from something. A neighboring civilization had declared war on us over a resource dispute. We were losing. We needed an advantage, a way to move our fleets faster than our enemies could track. So our best scientists developed reality compression. He turned back to face them. It worked, of course. We won the war. We expanded across the galaxy. We became powerful beyond our wildest dreams, and then reality itself punished us for our hubris. Dr. Chen, I see much of my younger self in you. The same brilliance, the same determination, the same absolute certainty that you can solve any problem if you're just clever enough. Is that a bad thing? Sarah asked. It's a dangerous thing, but it's also what gives me hope. Kelleth pulled out a data tablet and set it on the table. This contains access codes for Council technology repositories. Everything you asked for and more. I'm granting you provisional access. Sarah stared at him. You're giving us what we need? Just like that? Not just like that. I am taking an enormous risk. One that could cost me my position if the Council disagrees with my decision. But I have watched you work for 3 months. I have seen your dedication, your intelligence, and most importantly, your genuine remorse for what you've done. The Council wanted to see if humanity could learn from its mistakes. I believe you can. I believe you are. Thank you, Sarah whispered. Don't thank me yet. If this works, you will save billions of lives and prove that humanity deserves its place among the stars. If it fails, we will all die together, and I will be remembered as the fool who trusted a species that should have been quarantined. Kelleth managed something that might have been a smile. No pressure. After Kelleth left, Sarah, Yuki, and Whisper of Equations stared at the access codes like they were looking at the Holy Grail. Well, Yuki said eventually, I guess we'd better not screw this up. The next 2 months were a blur of activity. With access to Council technology, the project that had seemed impossible suddenly became merely incredibly difficult. Sarah coordinated with engineers across a dozen species, each contributing their expertise to the construction of what they were calling the Stable Fold Drive, though Sarah privately thought of it as the reality repair kit. But not everyone on Earth was happy with the project. Admiral Webb had been quiet during the initial negotiations, but Sarah had known he wouldn't stay that way forever. She just hadn't expected him to do something so spectacularly stupid. The first she heard about it was when Kelleth arrived at the lab looking like he wanted to strangle someone with all 4 arms. Did you know? He demanded without preamble. Know what? That your military has been secretly constructing additional reality compression drives. 5 of them, hidden in facilities across your solar system. They were planning to use them as leverage, as weapons to ensure Earth's independence from Council oversight. Sarah felt her blood turn to ice. No, I had no idea. Ambassador, I swear I haven't been in contact with the military since we started this project. The Council is in an uproar, Kelleth continued. There are factions demanding immediate intervention. Some are calling for Earth to be sterilized as a threat to galactic security. Dr. Chen, everything we've worked for, everything you've accomplished, could be undone because your species cannot seem to help itself. Where's Webb? Sarah asked, already heading for the door. Under arrest aboard my ship. But the damage is done. The Council has lost faith in humanity's ability to self-govern. There will be a vote in 3 days on whether to proceed with forced quarantine. Sarah wanted to scream. They had been so close. The Stable Fold Drive prototypes were almost ready for testing. They had a real chance to fix the ruptures and prove that humanity could be trusted. And Webb had thrown it all away for what? Pride, fear of alien oversight?
Can you stop the vote?
Yuki asked. I can delay it, perhaps. But Dr. Chen, you need to understand something. The radical faction I mentioned before, the ones who wanted to destroy Earth immediately, they are growing in power. This revelation has given them ammunition. They are arguing that humanity is inherently reckless, that you will always choose power over wisdom, weapons over peace. Then we need to prove them wrong, Sarah said. How long until the Stable Fold Drive prototypes are ready? Whisper of Equations pulsed in his equivalent of alarm. At least 3 weeks. And that's just for the prototypes. We'd need months more to build enough units to repair all the ruptures. We don't have months. We barely have days. Sarah pulled up the latest rupture data. The spreading dead zones were clearly visible, expanding like a cancer across the star map. And there, highlighted in red, was the first inhabited system in their path. The ruptures will reach the Krell homeworld in 4 months. When that happens, when billions of beings start dying because of what we built, there won't be any more debate. The Council will do whatever it takes to eliminate the threat, even if that means eliminating us. So what do you propose? Kelleth asked. Sarah stared at the display, an idea forming in her mind. It was risky, possibly insane, but it might be their only chance. We deploy the prototypes now. Not all the ruptures, just the ones nearest to inhabited space. We prove the technology works. Prove that we can fix what we broke. Then maybe the Council will give us the time we need to finish the job. The prototypes aren't ready, Yuki protested. We haven't finished safety testing. If something goes wrong, we're no worse off than we are now, Sarah interrupted. Yuki, I know the risks, but we're out of options. Either we take this chance or we watch everything fall apart. Kelleth looked at her with his alien eyes, and Sarah couldn't read the expression she saw there. Finally, he spoke. You realize that if this fails, you will likely die. The prototype devices require someone to pilot them, to make real-time adjustments during the repair process. And if the rupture destabilizes during repair, the pilot will be at the center of a cascading failure in space-time. There will be no escape, no rescue. I know, Sarah said. I built the reality compression drive. If someone has to risk their life to fix it, it should be me. I'll go too, Yuki said immediately. You're not doing this alone. As will I, Whisper of Equations pulsed. I am Krell. It is my world that will be destroyed first. I have as much right to risk my life for this as you do. Kelleth bowed his head, a gesture of respect that transcended species. Very well. I will present your plan to the Council. I cannot promise they will approve it, but I will do everything in my power to give you this chance. 3 days later, Sarah found herself in the cockpit of a ship that looked like nothing humanity had ever built. It was organic and mechanical at once, a fusion of Council technology and human desperation. The Stable-Fold drive hummed beneath her, a modified reality compression engine that would hopefully heal instead of harm. Yuki was in a second ship, positioned at the second largest rupture. Whisper of Equations was at a third. If everything went according to plan, they would activate their drives simultaneously, guiding the displaced space back to where it belonged, stitching reality back together. If everything went wrong, they would die and the ruptures would grow even faster. All ships report ready, came the voice of the Council coordinator. Dr. Chen, you are cleared to proceed on your mark. Sarah took a deep breath. Through her viewport, she could see the rupture, invisible to normal light but clearly visible on her sensors. It looked like a wound in space itself, ragged and spreading. She thought about her daughter, about her parents, about everyone on Earth who was counting on her to succeed, about the billions of beings in nearby systems who didn't even know they were in danger. This is Dr. Sarah Chen, she said into the communication channel. Beginning reality restoration sequence in 3, 2, 1 mark. She activated the drive and the universe turned inside out for the third time in her life. But this time something was different. This time, she could feel the space responding, could sense it flowing back to where it belonged like water finding its level. The ship shook. Alarms blared. Sarah's hands flew across the controls, making tiny adjustments, guiding the process. It was like trying to conduct an orchestra while riding a roller coaster, every moment requiring perfect timing and precision. And then suddenly it was done. The rupture was gone. Space was stable. Reality was intact. Chen to coordination, Sarah gasped, her hands shaking from the adrenaline. The rupture is repaired. Repeat, the rupture is repaired. Did the others succeed? Affirmative, came the reply. All 3 ruptures have been successfully restored. Dr. Chen, Dr. Tanaka, Whisper of Equations, you have done the impossible. You have healed broken reality. Sarah started laughing and couldn't stop, tears streaming down her face. They had done it. They had actually done it. But as she began the journey back to Titan, she realized something. The rupture she had just repaired was the smallest of the 3 they had attempted. There were dozens more, some of them 10 times larger, scattered across light years of space. They had won a battle. But the war was just beginning. The success of the prototype tests changed everything. The Council, which had been debating whether to quarantine or destroy humanity, instead voted to provide full support for the repair mission. Admiral Webb was removed from his position and charged with endangering galactic security. More importantly, Earth's governments finally understood that they were part of something bigger than themselves, and that the rules they were being asked to follow weren't about control, but about survival. Sarah stood on the bridge of the Restoration Fleet flagship, surrounded by beings from a dozen different species. In the past 6 weeks, they had built 53 ships equipped with the stable fold drive technology. Each ship would be piloted by a volunteer, and each volunteer knew the risks. The larger ruptures would require more energy, more precision, and more time to repair. Any mistake could be fatal. Captain Maria Rodriguez was there too, having volunteered to pilot one of the ships. She caught Sarah's eye and nodded. They had come full circle, from that first disastrous test at Proxima Centauri to this moment, preparing to heal the wounds humanity had inflicted on the universe. "All ships report ready," announced the fleet coordinator, a crystalline being whose name translated roughly as harmony in motion. "We have calculated the optimal activation sequence. Dr. Chen, as chief architect of the stable fold drive, you will coordinate the operation from the flagship. The larger ruptures will require manual piloting, but the smaller ones can be handled with automated systems." Sarah pulled up the tactical display. The ruptures were marked in red, a constellation of damage spreading outward from Earth and Proxima Centauri. The largest was directly between the two systems, a massive tear in space-time that was growing at an accelerating rate. If left unchecked, it would consume both systems within 2 years. "The central rupture is our primary concern," Sarah said, highlighting it for the assembled crews. "Our models suggest it will require sustained stabilization for at least 3 minutes. That's 3 minutes in the heart of collapsing space-time, making constant adjustments to prevent cascade failure. It's the most dangerous assignment, and it needs our most experienced pilot." "I'll do it," said a familiar voice. Ambassador Kelleth stepped forward. "I have more experience with reality compression than anyone in this fleet. I have seen what happens when these ruptures reach inhabited worlds. It is fitting that I should face this danger." "Ambassador, you don't have to," Sarah began, but Kelleth raised one of his 4 hands. "Yes, I do. Dr. Chen, you have given my people hope for the first time in 10,000 years. The Gentar have been refugees, scattered among the stars, homeless and broken. But if this mission succeeds, if we can prove that reality compression damage can be healed, then perhaps one day we can reclaim our homeworld. Let me earn that hope." Sarah nodded, not trusting herself to speak. She pulled up the manifest and assigned Kelleth to the central rupture mission. Then she began assigning the other pilots to their targets, trying not to think about how many of them might not come back. But as she worked, something nagged at her mind. The rupture data didn't quite make sense. The largest rupture was growing faster than their models predicted, as if it was being fed by some external energy source. She pulled up the detailed analysis, frowning at the numbers. "Yuki," she called out, "come look at this. Does this growth pattern seem wrong to you?" Yuki studied the data, his expression growing concerned. "It's accelerating. But that shouldn't be possible unless—" His eyes went wide. "Sarah, I think the ruptures are interacting with each other. Each one is weakening the space around it, making it easier for the others to grow. They're creating a feedback loop, which means we can't repair them one at a time. We have to repair them all simultaneously, or the remaining ruptures will grow even faster, feeding on the instability we create during the repair process." Sarah felt her heart sink. 53 ships, 53 ruptures. They had exactly enough ships and pilots for a coordinated operation, but no room for error, no backup plan, no safety margin. "How certain are you?" she asked. 95%. "Maybe higher." Yuki pulled up additional simulations. "Look, if we repair the ruptures sequentially, each repair temporarily destabilizes nearby space. The remaining ruptures will expand into that instability, growing faster than we can repair them. It's like trying to patch holes in a dam while the water pressure keeps increasing. Eventually, the whole thing collapses." Sarah turned to Harmony in motion. "We need to change the plan. All ships need to activate simultaneously, not in sequence. That will require perfect synchronization across dozens of light years," the coordinator objected. "The slightest deviation in timing could create interference patterns that would make everything worse." "I know, but it's the only way this works. Can the Council's communication network handle it?" Harmony in Motion consulted with other Council members. "Yes, but barely. We will need to use the quantum entanglement network, which is normally reserved for emergencies. Every ship will need to be linked to the central coordination system. There can be no independent action, no deviation from the plan. Then let's make sure everyone understands that, Sarah said. She opened a channel to all ships. Attention all pilots. We have new information about the ruptures. They're feeding on each other through quantum resonance effects. To successfully complete this mission, every ship must activate their stable fold drive at exactly the same moment. Not approximately the same moment. Exactly. Any variation in timing could cause the entire operation to fail catastrophically. There was silence on the channel. Then Captain Rodriguez spoke up. Dr. Chen, some of us will be piloting manually. We're human. We can't react at quantum speeds. How are we supposed to maintain perfect synchronization? Sarah had been dreading this question. The flagship will serve as the master coordinator. I'll be linked to all ships through the quantum network. When it's time to make adjustments, I'll transmit correction signals faster than any individual pilot could react. You'll need to trust the system, trust the network, and trust me. That's a lot of trust, Maria said quietly. I know, but I broke reality. Let me fix it. The fleet launched 3 days later. Sarah watched from the flagship as the ships dispersed across space, each heading for their assigned rupture. The journey took hours for most ships, days for the farthest ones. Sarah used the time to triple-check every calculation, every contingency plan, every possible point of failure. She also used the time to send a message to her daughter. She didn't know if she would survive what was coming, and she needed Sophia to know how much she loved her, how sorry she was for the danger she had put everyone in, how proud she was of the brave people who had volunteered for this mission. When the last ship reached its position, Sarah took her place at the central control station. Around her, council technicians monitored hundreds of displays showing real-time data from every ship. The quantum entanglement network linked them all, creating a web of connection that spanned light years. All ships report in position, Harmony in Motion announced. Dr. Chen, you may begin when ready. Sarah looked at the central display, at the massive rupture that Kelleth would be facing. It was the most dangerous assignment, but it was also the key to everything. If the central rupture could be stabilized, it would prevent the feedback loop that Yuki had identified. The other ruptures would be difficult but manageable. If the central rupture failed, everything failed. Ambassador Kelleth, Sarah said softly. Are you ready? I was born ready, Dr. Chen. 10,000 years ago, I failed to save my world. Today, I will save 67 worlds. It is a good trade. Sarah blinked back tears. All ships, this is Chen, beginning countdown. Activation in 30 seconds. The seconds ticked down. Sarah's hands moved across her controls, pre-positioning correction algorithms, setting up the synchronization protocols, preparing to guide 53 pilots through the most dangerous operation any of them had ever attempted. 10 seconds, 9, 8. Through the quantum link, Sarah could feel the other pilots, their fear, their determination, their absolute commitment to seeing this through. 3, 2, 1, activate. The universe exploded with light. 53 stable fold drives activated simultaneously, creating a network of stabilization fields across dozens of light years. Sarah's consciousness expanded through the quantum link, experiencing all 53 operations at once. She could feel the ruptures responding, feel the displaced space flowing back to where it belonged. But she could also feel the resistance, the way reality fought against being healed, the immense forces involved in stitching space-time back together. Central rupture showing instability, one of the technicians called out. Kelleth is experiencing temporal distortion. Sarah saw it through the data feeds. Time was moving differently around the central rupture, accelerating in some areas, slowing in others. Kelleth was experiencing hours for every minute that passed for everyone else. He was aging, his biological system struggling to cope with the temporal stress. Ambassador, you need to pull back, Sarah transmitted. The temporal effects are too severe. Negative, Kelleth's voice came back, distorted by the time dilation but still determined. If I pull back now, the rupture will destabilize. The feedback loop will restart. Continue the operation. You'll die. Then I will die saving billions. Dr. Chen, we do not have time for debate. Give me the corrections I need. Sarah wanted to argue, wanted to order him to abort, but she knew he was right. They were committed now. Pulling back would doom the entire mission. She sent him the correction algorithms, watching helplessly as the temporal distortion around him intensified. Minutes passed for the fleet. Hours passed for Kelleth. Days. Rupture stability improving across the board. Harmony and motion reported. The feedback loop is breaking, Dr. Chen, it's working. But the cost was terrible. Through the quantum link, Sarah could see Keleth aging. His movements were becoming slower, his responses taking longer. He was an old man now, ancient by his species standards, but still holding his position at the center of the rupture, still making the constant tiny adjustments needed to keep the repair process stable. Almost there, Sarah whispered, willing him to hold on just a little longer. 30 seconds. You can do this. The ruptures were closing, space knitting back together. The dead zones were healing. In another 20 seconds, it would be done. 20 seconds that might as well be 20 years for Keleth. Ambassador Keleth, respond, Sarah called out. Give me your status. Silence. Keleth, please talk to me. Still. Here. His voice was barely audible, weak and distant. Finishing my task. The last seconds ticked down. Sarah watched the readings, watched as the final rupture sealed itself as reality became stable once more. 53 ships had succeeded in their mission. 53 pilots had survived except one. Keleth's ship is showing critical life support failure, a technician reported. Temporal stress was too severe. His biology couldn't handle it. Get a medical ship to his location now, Sarah ordered. We are not losing him, not after everything he's done. But even as she said it, she knew they were too late. The quantum link was fading. Keleth's life signs were dropping. He had pushed himself beyond his limits, sacrificing everything to hold the center while the rest of the repairs completed. Dr. Chen, his voice whispered through the link one last time. Tell my people. We can go home now. The way is clear. The dead zone can be healed. Tell them. The Gentar are no longer cursed. Then the link went silent. Sarah sat in her chair, numb with grief and exhaustion. They had done it. They had healed the ruptures, proven that reality compression damage could be reversed, saved billions of lives. But the price had been higher than she had imagined. Around her, the crew was celebrating, cheering, congratulating each other on the successful mission. Sarah let them have their moment. They deserved it. They had accomplished something unprecedented, something that would change the galaxy forever. But she couldn't celebrate. Not yet. Not while Keleth's ship drifted alone in the cold of space, a monument to sacrifice and redemption. Yuki appeared at her side, putting a hand on her shoulder. He saved us all. We couldn't have done this without him. I know, Sarah said quietly. He spent 10,000 years carrying the guilt of his species' mistake. And in the end, he gave everything to prevent us from making the same one. The fleet began the long journey home. News of their success spread across the Council network at light speed. Celebrations erupted on worlds that had been facing extinction. The Krell homeworld, which had been evacuating in preparation for the approaching dead zone, canceled its evacuation. 67 worlds would live to see another day. And on Earth, humanity learned a lesson about responsibility, about the weight of knowledge, about the price of playing with forces beyond their understanding. 2 weeks later, Sarah stood before the full Galactic Council, this time not as a prisoner but as an honored guest. The chamber was filled with beings from across the galaxy, all gathered to witness this historic moment. High Chancellor Vorn's crystalline form pulsed with light. Dr. Sarah Chen of Earth, you came before this council charged with creating a weapon that threatened all civilized space. You could have denied responsibility. You could have fought against our judgment. Instead, you accepted your mistake and worked tirelessly to correct it. You transformed a technology of destruction into one of healing, and in doing so you have earned not only forgiveness but respect. Vorn gestured, and a hologram appeared showing the former dead zones, now restored to stable space. The Gentar homeworld can be reclaimed. Dozens of other dead zones scattered across the galaxy can now be healed using your stable fold drive technology. You have given hope to refugees who have been homeless for millennia. You have proven that young species can learn wisdom faster than we believed possible. I had a good teacher, Sarah said softly, thinking of Keleth. Ambassador Keleth showed me what it means to carry responsibility, to face the consequences of your mistakes, to sacrifice everything for redemption. I only wish he could be here to see what we accomplished. He is here, Vorn said, and the hologram changed to show Keleth's image. Ambassador Kelleth's sacrifice has been recorded in the Council archives as an act of supreme courage. His memory will be honored by all member species for as long as the Council endures. A moment of silence filled the chamber. Sarah bowed her head, feeling the weight of all those lives saved, all that potential preserved, balanced against one life lost. Humanity is hereby granted full provisional membership in the Galactic Council, Vorn announced. You will have access to our knowledge, our technology, and our protection. In return, you will share your own innovations, including the stable fold drive, which will become the new standard for safe, faster than light travel across the galaxy. Sarah looked up in surprise. The stable fold drive. But that technology came from the Council. We just modified it. You did more than modify it, said the smoke serpent being whose name Sarah had learned was swift through darkness. You took a weapon and turned it into a healing tool. You saw a problem that had existed for 10,000 years and found a solution in months. That is not just modification, Dr. Chen. That is innovation. That is the human contribution to galactic civilization. Another council member spoke. A being that looked like a tree made of light. There is something else. We have been monitoring Captain Rodriguez since her return from Proxima Centauri. The temporal distortion she experienced during the first test left residual effects. Time is still moving slightly faster for her than for those around her. We have studied these effects extensively. Maria stepped forward from where she had been standing with the other human representatives. I'm aware. I've aged about 3 months while everyone else aged 3 weeks. The council doctors think it will stabilize eventually. It will, the tree being confirmed. But Dr. Chen, this gives us an opportunity. The temporal effects experienced by Ambassador Kelleth were extreme, but they were not unique. Anyone piloting into a rupture experiences time dilation. We can use this phenomenon, Sarah frowned, not understanding. Use it how? The Gentar dead zone is vast, Vorn explained. Thousands of cubic light-years of unstable space. To fully repair it will require hundreds of missions over many years. Each mission will expose the pilot to temporal stress. Each pilot will experience significant time dilation. Understanding dawned on Sarah's face. You want volunteers to age faster so the repairs can happen faster? Precisely. With enough volunteers, we could complete the restoration of the Gentar homeworld in 5 years of external time. But for the pilots, it would be decades of subjective experience. We are asking for a sacrifice of time, of youth, of the years that each volunteer will lose. I'll do it, Maria said immediately. I'm already experiencing the effects. I might as well put them to good use. As will I, Sarah added. She had expected this. Had known from the moment Kelleth died that she would have to follow through. I broke reality once. Let me spend however many years it takes to fix all of it. Dr. Chen, Vorn said gently, if you volunteer for the full restoration project, you will emerge decades older. You have a daughter on Earth. You will miss her childhood, her adolescence, possibly more. Are you certain? Sarah thought about Sophia. 8 years old now, just starting to understand that her mother was part of something important. Sarah could go home, spend those years with her daughter, watch her grow up normally. It was the sensible choice, the safe choice. But she also thought about Kelleth spending 10,000 years in exile because his species had made the same mistake. She thought about all the Gentar refugees scattered across the galaxy, homeless and broken, waiting for a miracle that Sarah could provide. My daughter will understand, Sarah said, hoping it was true. Or maybe she won't, not right away. But someday she'll be old enough to understand that some responsibilities are bigger than family, bigger than any individual life. Kelleth taught me that. The least I can do is honor his lesson. Yuki stepped forward as well. Count me in too. We started this together, Sarah. We'll finish it together. Whisper of equations pulsed in his equivalent of emotion. The Krell people owe you a debt we can never repay. Our homeworld would have been destroyed without your intervention. I too will volunteer. Others came forward. Captain Rodriguez. A dozen pilots from the repair mission. Scientists from council species who wanted to be part of this historic project. Within minutes, Sarah found herself at the center of a growing group of volunteers, all willing to sacrifice years of their lives to heal the scars humanity had left on the universe. Very well, Vorn said, and Sarah thought she detected approval in the crystalline being's voice. The restoration project is officially authorized. Dr. Chen will serve as chief coordinator. Ambassador. Vorn paused, and Sarah saw something change in the chamber's atmosphere. Dr. Chen, there is one more matter. The position of ambassador to the Galactic Council from Earth is currently vacant. The council has voted, and we would like to offer you this position. Sarah stared. Me, but I'm a scientist, not a diplomat. Surely there are better candidates. There are more experienced candidates, Swift Through Darkness agreed. But there are none who better understand both the dangers and the potential of advanced technology. None who have proven so completely that they can learn from mistakes. You will represent not just Earth but all species who have yet to join the Council. You will be a voice for wisdom tempered by humility. Will you accept? Sarah looked at the assembled beings. At the faces both alien and familiar, she thought about the journey that had brought her here. From a laboratory in Switzerland to the center of galactic politics. She had wanted to reach the stars. Now she would help govern them. I accept, she said, on one condition. Ambassador Kelleth's family, wherever they are, whatever they need, Earth will provide it. It's the least we can do for the being who saved us all. His family perished in the Cascade failure 10,000 years ago, Bourne said quietly. But there are other Gentar survivors, scattered across the galaxy. Your offer of assistance will mean much to them. The ceremony continued with formal declarations and official welcomes, but Sarah barely heard them. She was thinking about the future, about the work ahead. The Gentar homeworld to restore, other dead zones to heal, the integration of humanity into galactic society, the sharing of knowledge and technology that would transform Earth forever. And she was thinking about Kelleth, about his final words. Tell them the Gentar are no longer cursed. Tell them they can go home. After the ceremony, Sarah stood alone in the observation deck of the council station, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there was the Gentar dead zone, waiting to be healed. Somewhere out there was Earth, her home, her daughter, everything she would be leaving behind for however many years it took to complete this work. Having second thoughts, Captain Rodriguez appeared beside her, 2 cups of coffee in her hands. She offered one to Sarah with a wry smile. Admiral Webb used to do this. Guess I'm picking up the habit? Sarah accepted the coffee gratefully, not second thoughts, just contemplating the scale of what we've committed to. We're going to spend decades in subjective time doing this work, Maria. We'll come back to an Earth that's moved on without us. Maybe, Maria said. Or maybe we'll come back to an Earth that's proud of what we accomplished. That understands we did something important, something necessary. My daughter is 8 too, you know. Same age as yours. I think about her every day. But I also think about the billions of lives we saved, and the billions more we're going to save. That has to count for something. It does, Sarah agreed. But it still hurts. Yeah, it does. Maria sipped her coffee. You know what Kelleth told me during that first contact at Proxima Centauri? He said his species learned wisdom too late, that they paid the price for their arrogance. But he also said he envied us. Envied us? For what? For having the chance to learn before it was too late. For having the opportunity to make things right. He said most species don't get that chance. They make the mistake, pay the price, and that's the end of their story. But we got lucky. We had someone who cared enough to intervene, to give us a chance to fix our mistake before it killed us all. Sarah thought about that. It was true. The Council could have destroyed Earth or quarantined it forever. Instead, they had given humanity a chance to prove themselves. And humanity had risen to the occasion. We're going to make sure that gift wasn't wasted, Sarah said. We're going to heal every dead zone in the galaxy. We're going to show the Council that humanity can be trusted with advanced technology, and we're going to make sure that Kelleth's sacrifice meant something. Damn right we are, Maria agreed. She raised her coffee cup in a toast. To Ambassador Kelleth, may his memory inspire us to be better than we were. To Kelleth, Sarah echoed, clinking her cup against Maria's. And to humanity's future among the stars. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the stars wheel by. Somewhere out there, the Gentar homeworld waited. Somewhere out there, countless dead zones marked the mistakes of ancient civilizations, and somewhere out there the future was waiting to be built. Sarah Chen had set out to give humanity the stars. She had succeeded, just not in the way she had imagined. She had learned that reaching the stars wasn't about technology or speed or power. It was about wisdom, responsibility, and the willingness to sacrifice for the greater good. She had broken reality and learned to fix it. She had nearly destroyed billions of lives and instead had saved them. She had started as a scientist and become an ambassador. And in the process, she had proven something that the galaxy had needed to see. That humanity, for all its flaws and recklessness, could learn and grow and become something worthy of the stars. The journey ahead would be long. Years would pass subjectively as she and her volunteers worked to heal the wounds in space-time. She would age decades while the galaxy aged years. She would miss her daughter's childhood. She would sacrifice the comfortable life she could have had on Earth, but she would also give hope to the hopeless. She would restore homeworlds to refugees who had been wandering for millennia. She would prove that mistakes, however catastrophic, could be fixed if you were willing to pay the price. And when it was finally done, when the last dead zone was healed and the last rupture was sealed, she would go home. She would be older, grayer, marked by the years she had spent fixing what she had broken. But she would go home with her head held high, knowing that she had done something that mattered. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy not with wisdom or peace, but with a weapon that nearly broke reality itself. But in the end, they had transformed that weapon into a tool for healing. They had turned their greatest mistake into their greatest gift. And that, Sarah thought, was very human indeed. As she finished her coffee and prepared to begin the next phase of her work, Sarah smiled. The stars were waiting. The Gentar were waiting. The future was waiting, and Ambassador Sarah Chen, formerly Dr. Sarah Chen, the woman who had broken reality and learned to fix it, was ready to meet it.